Good evening, everyone. Great to see such a full house. We do have a lot of presentations, so I'm going to ask for your patience while we get through everything. And once we get down there, I'll be calling people forward at that point. It is, of course, June 15th, and welcome to Woodstock City Council. This hybrid meeting is being held in person here in council chambers and electronically in accordance with section 238, subsection 3.3 of the Municipal Act and section 16.6.24 of the City of Woodstock Procedure Bylaw. This meeting is being live streamed to the city's YouTube channel, and a recording will be posted on the city's website following the meeting. The meeting will also be broadcast on Rogers TV. An agenda of the meeting can be found on the agendas, meetings, and minutes page of the city's website. And tonight, all councillors are in attendance, so none are virtual. And Councillor Lauder will be reading the resolutions. We did not have a closed meeting tonight. And so next up, I'll ask for any disclosure of conflict of interest. Okay, seeing none from council. I do have one, which could be a perceived conflict, and that is on planning item 9C. So I am going to declare a possible perceived conflict of interest due to my ownership of a home in that immediate area. And that is to item SB 22-05-8 and ZN 8-22-21. And I will be asking the acting mayor, Connie or Lauder, to come forward at that point beforehand. Okay. So no matters arising from the minutes. So now I'll ask for the minutes. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. I'll move that moved by myself and second by Councillor Wismer Van Meer that the minutes of the regular meeting of the Woodstock City Council held on June 1st, 2023 be adopted.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you. So tonight we don't have any additions to the agenda, but we certainly have some presentations. So first up, we will have our Student Civic Awards of Excellence, and I'm going to come to the floor to make this a little easier. Okay, again, thanks everybody. So this is our Student Civic Awards of Excellence. This would be our second group of recipients of Woodstock City Council's 2023 Student Civic Awards of Excellence. Are all hardworking, dedicated, and determined individuals who have maintained above average grades throughout their high school careers. Allison is an active member of her school community. She has always shown outstanding character, responsibility, and contributions towards a positive sense of community in the classroom. Her academic success speaks for itself, but her reputation in the school as a peer and advocate speak the loudest. Allie is very dedicated and passionate in her fields of interest and is also socially responsible beyond her years. Her maturity and personal character make her a role model for the student population. She is able to balance her work, academic, and personal life. In the fall of 2023, Allison will be attending Trent University in the Honors of Science, Mathematics, Teacher Education program. So please, Allison, come forward. Would you mind staying up and we'll take a photo if that's okay with everyone after? Okay, thank you. Next up, we have Bridget. Bridget's a valued member of her school community. She consistently demonstrates strong leadership abilities and resiliency. Bridget takes the initiative to update the school bulletin boards with positive messages, visits classrooms to make announcements about upcoming events, and facilitates school spirit weeks. Bridget not only took the initiative to lead and organize activities for the school community, but also represented Huron Park within the Oxford County community by volunteering as a student representative for the Oxford County Stair Climb. She manages to balance her work, academic, and sport life. She works as a lifeguard at the city's aquatic center, plays school and out-of-school sports, and volunteers at Dance and Style, and as an assistant coach for basketball. In the fall of 2023, Bridget will be attending Wilfrid Laurier University in the Health Sciences program. Bridget, may I please come forward. Congratulations. If you don't mind. Yeah, thank you. And last but certainly not least is Abia, is an active and contributing member of her school community. She demonstrates many leadership qualities. She is dependable, creative, well-spoken, has a strong work ethic. She has held the position of diversity minister on the student council for the past 2 years and deputy prime minister in 2021 and 2022. During this time, she took the initiative to prepare daily announcements. She clearly articulated the importance of the contributions of the various BIPOC people have on our society. Abia has a passion for advocating for all. Through her various student council events, Abia has demonstrated reliability and accountability. She has helped to organize and run events such as the annual school carnival, prep for the semi-formal dance, canteen and snack stands at lunchtime, Halloween activities, and has regular attendance for the student council meetings. She has planned a multicultural day, which took place in May of this past year. Along with her outstanding school achievements, Abby also spends many hours volunteering in the community. In the fall of 2023, Abby will be attending either McMaster or Western University in the Health Sciences program. Congratulations, and please come forward. Abby Osuno. Congratulations. Well done. So, you want to get a picture with all? Want to do it here in the middle? We don't have the. Thank you, and congratulations. Thank you so much. So those that aren't aware, those are $1,000 bursaries on behalf of City Council. Okay. Next up, we do have the Woodstock Junior Vets, the Woodstock Junior Navy Vets, my apologies, under 18 hockey team. The Woodstock Junior Navy Vets midget under 18 team roster was assembled in September of 2022 with 7 returning players from the previous season who were entering their final season of minor hockey. The regular season started off with an 8-5-2 record and kept building from there. The team participated in 3 tournaments from November to January, playing in the semifinals in each of the 3 tournaments, but falling short of making it to the finals. When the regular season ended in early March, the midgets had finished 6th overall amongst 12 teams. They had a long and successful playoff run, defeating St. Thomas, Stratford, and finally playing Brantford for the chance to participate in the OHF finals in Porcupine, Ontario. It was a very competitive and hard-fought series against Brantford that went to a final and deciding game on April 12th in Woodstock, where they clinched their berth to the OHF finals with a 5-2 win. The goal of the head coach, Jack Vasoyan, entered the season was to make it to the OHF finals, to have a rare chance of repeating as OHF champions as the team had done in the previous 21 and 22 season. On Sunday, April 23rd, the Woodstock Junior Navy Vets midget under 18 hockey team defeated Fergus, Center Wellington, in the championship game 6-1 to capture their 2nd OHF championship in back-to-back years. A rare accomplishment that all of Woodstock can be proud of. Congratulations, team. Now, we do have a presentation for each of the players and coaches, so I'm going to ask, when I call your name, to come forward, and I am going to ask Councillor Schattenberg to kind of give me a hand to speed this up a wee bit. Well, let's start off with the head coach, of course. Jack Vasoyan. Next up, assistant coach, Kyle Walker. See you? Yep. Okay, no problem. No, we don't expecting. Yep. No problem. We'd still like to read all the names if that's okay with everybody. Assistant coach, Chris Jensen. Assistant coach, Mike McMahon. Oh, Mike's here. Team manager, Jeff Kindrews. So this is by numbers, okay? We're not taking any favorites, nothing like this. So this is number 4, Evan Raymond. Number 5, Brendan McMullen. Okay. Number 8, Nicholas Vasoyan. Okay. Number 9, Tyler Watts. If we'd like to hold clapping to the end, I think that'd be okay. There are 25 players. I'll just let you know now. Number 10, Carter Den. Just make sure you speak up if you are here in the hallway and I don't know this. Number 11, Gavin Birmingham. Number 13, Brett Vandenduel. Number 17, Matthew Mayer. Number 31, Elliot Yu. Number 40, Matthew Tremblay. Number 54, Shannon McMahon. Very nice. Nicely done. Congratulations. Number 55, Brady Karn. Number 77, Mike Vermeesh. Number 88, Seth Martin. Number 89, Dylan Betts. Number 91, Connor Stanley. Number 92, Jackson Nanskiville. Number 93, Luke Stratton. And number 95, Aiden Kindrews. I think that's everything. Now let's clap. Congratulations. Congratulations. Get a group photo, is that okay? Get the trophy. Well, you guys hold that. You earned it, not me. No, you get in here. You guys hold that. I get to hold the microphone. Congratulations. Well done, everybody. Thanks for representing Woodstock so well. I know your hands are full, but that's okay. Yes, if you don't mind, if that's all right. Yeah. Excuse me. Thank you for passing those on and make sure they knew they missed a really big presentation. Especially when they watch them on TV. Yeah. All right, take it. Thank you. Yeah. Take care. Thanks, everyone, for your patience there. We'll just give them a minute to make some seats available. All right, next up, we do have delegations. 8A, Kelly Vanderhoeven and Emma Ostermeyer, Southwestern Public Health and the Human Environments Analysis Laboratory, ActiPass. And I believe they are via Zoom.
Bear with me here. I don't know why this is. Oh. Hi there. I'm just working on sharing.
We can see your video.
Okay. Are you able to see the presentation?
Yes, we are.
Perfect. Sorry, I'll begin. Through you, Mayor, my name is Kelly Vanderhoven from Southwestern Public Health. We would like Council to consider a motion to support the implementation of the ActiPass program in the City of Woodstock that starts July 1st, 2023. The ActiPass model involves offering spaces in underutilized recreational programming and available spaces to grade 5 children. Physical activity is well known to benefit nearly every conceivable health and well-being indicator. Example, physical fitness, bone health, quality of life, motor skill development, etc. Physical activity initiatives are timely as the proportion of children meeting the national physical activity recommendations has declined from 39% before the pandemic to 28% during the pandemic, with parents in Southwestern Ontario describing the loss of organized programs and lack of social connection, limiting their child's physical activity. ActiPass started in London in 2013 through a community collaboration between Human Environments Analysis Laboratory, it's the HEAL Lab at Western University, London Child and Youth Network, and physical activity providers across the city. The ActiPass program can help improve physical activity levels during a critical age, targeting grade 5 students, as physical activity levels tend to decline around ages 9 to 11. The ActiPass is an evidence-based physical activity program that removes financial barriers to participation by offering participating children free access to a variety of recreational opportunities with their ActiPass card. Through the program, we aim to introduce children to their local recreational centers and programming to help find activities they enjoy and want to participate in after the program. Previous evaluations of the ActiPass have shown to improve children's physical activity levels, particularly among groups characterized as having lower physical activity participation, including girls, visible minorities, and recent immigrants. It was identified in the London ActiPass use of the pass evaluation that most popular activities were used by pass holders were swimming at 31%, skating 18%, Boys and Girls Club 14%, and YMCA 12%. Due to the success of the program in the London area, it made sense to expand to Oxford, Middlesex, Elgin, and St. Thomas. The website playeveryday.ca will be uploaded with Oxford County's activities on July 1st, 2023, and once the new expanded program becomes live. So since fall 2022, Southwestern Public Health has been reaching out, connecting with recreation partners, across Oxford County. Currently in Woodstock, the service providers participating in the ActiPass include YMCA, Sally Creek Golf Club, Youth Unlimited, Youth for Christ Woodstock, Dance and Style Studio, Diamond Dance Center, and the Woodstock Curling Club. There are activities across Oxford County as well in Ingersoll, Tillsonburg, Bright, Embro, Innerkip, East Shore, Tavistock, Blandford, Blenheim, that include skating, golf, karate, mini putt, etc. In preparation for the program, we met with service providers in Oxford to discuss factors positively or negatively that positively or negatively influence children's physical activity. And as indicated in the above word cloud, offering affordable local activity is important for children's physical activity. And as a service provider, we ask for a contribution of underutilized recreational programming with available spaces to ActiPass participants, and if feasible, offer a +1 for ActiPass holders to bring a friend or a family member with them. And to be clear, we don't ask that additional programs be created for the ActiPass program, and it's not intended to cost recreation services any money at all. The program is flexible, so we ask that service providers select the season, date, location, activities that work best for the organization. And when it comes to activities that could be offered, consider times when the facility is already staffed and capacity to add participants to an already existing program to maximize the program's usage. For an example, an open swim or an open skate or drop-in gym times or other recreational programming. So that concludes my presentation. I'd like to offer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Kelly. Any questions for the delegation from council? No? Thank you so much, Kelly, for your presentation. I'm looking
Thank
for
you.
a motion on the floor. Thank you. Councillor Wheaton.
Thank you. As the Vice Chair of Southwestern Public Health, I'd be delighted to read this motion that Woodstock City Council directs staff to work with the Southwest Public Health to implement ActiPass for grade 5 Woodstock students for public swimming and skating, and to further investigate the feasibility of other future program opportunities.
Thank you. Looking for a seconder. Councillor Tate. Discussion. Councillor Tate.
Just a comment. A few years ago, I lose track of time. It might have been 10 years ago. Kelly Leach, she was the head of pediatrics at University Hospital in London, and she wrote a book about obesity in children and how it was going to be the next epidemic. So I think it's really important that we do support this. Any active activity is very important for kids as they get older. I think they said it was going to be the first generation of children that their parents were going to outlive because of the health risks associated with obesity. So fully support this motion.
Excellent. Thank you. Councillor Wheaton.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think as we talk at Southwestern Public Health as a board, we're studying and analyzing so many of the unintended consequences of COVID. And so lack of activity and lack of access to programming. This is a tremendous opportunity for us to turn that back around and to be a part of a solution after some pretty difficult isolating times for kids. And grade 5, we're learning, is just that incredibly important age that shapes so many future behaviors in high school and beyond. That is the age group that really captures and changes behavior. So I thank you for the seconded motion. I look forward to the vote.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Through the chair, just a general comment as well, that we're also opening up opportunities for some youth who may not have the ability to do these sports, to do these activities for many reasons. So I think it's just an added piece on top of, beyond the physical health, it's the mental health as well for them.
I agree. Thank you. Any other questions, concerns, anything? Wait, no? All right, I'll certainly concur with councillors. This age group, and I've always considered that 9 to 11-year-olds are forming those habits that are going to determine the rest of their lives. So if we can get them as active as possible, all the better for sure. So definitely we'll be agreeing with this one. With that, I'll call a vote. All those in favor? None opposed. Carried. Next up, we do have consideration of planning reports. E22-77-8 and A22-17-8. Looking for a motion on the floor. I'll call it Councillor Leatherborough.
Patience with me. Through your worship, moved by myself that Woodstock City Council advise the Land Division Committee that the city supports application file A22-17-08 submitted by 1967113 Ontario Inc. for lands described as Lot 4, Plan 246, Lot 15, Plan 227, Part Lot 16, Plan 227, Part Lane, Plan 227, City of Woodstock, and municipally known as 24 Bain Street as it relates to relief from section 7.2, table 7.2 R2 zone provisions to reduce the minimum required lot frontage of the lot to be retained from 9 meters to 29.5 feet to 7.3 meters to 23.9 feet. Relief from section 7.2, table 7.2 R2 zone provisions to reduce the minimum required lot frontage of the lot to be severed from 18 meters, bracket 59 feet to 15.7 meters, bracket 51.7 feet, and relief from section 7.2, table 7.2 R2 zone provisions to reduce the required interior side yard for the proposed retained lands from 3 meters, bracket 9.8 feet to 1.8 meters, bracket 5.9 feet. The recommended relief meets the 4 tests of a minor variance as set out in section 45(1) of the Planning Act as follows. The relief is a minor variance from the provisions of the city zoning's bylaw. The relief is desirable for the use of the land. The relief maintains the general intent and purpose of the city's zoning bylaw. The relief maintains the intent and purpose of the official plan. And further, that Woodstock City Council advised the Land Division Committee that the city supports the proposal to sever the subject land subject to the following conditions. 1, the owner shall submit a recent survey to confirm lot sizes and building setbacks to the satisfaction of the city of Woodstock. 2, the owners confirms that no underground or overhead services serving the retained lands traverse the severed parcel and vice versa. Where such services exist, the owner shall relocate the services or obtain private easements over the severed and or retained lots to the satisfaction of the city of Woodstock. 3, the owner shall enter into a severance agreement with the city of Woodstock as set forth in the city of Woodstock bylaw number 5266-76 and amendments thereto. The severance agreement shall be registered on first title by the owner to the satisfaction of the city of Woodstock. 4, the owner shall obtain a letter provided by the clerk of the city of Woodstock advising the secretary treasurer of the Land Division Committee that all requirements of the city of Woodstock have been compiled with. 5, the owner shall agree in writing to satisfy all requirements, financial and otherwise, of the city of Woodstock and the county of Oxford regarding the installation of services and drainage facilities if required.
Well done. Thank you. Seconded to the motion. Councillor Wismer Van Meer. And Mr. Miller, please come forward. You're not off the hook. Wasn't going to skip you.
Good evening, council staff and members of the public. I knew I wasn't as popular to have all these people here from Monday. So I'll try to be briefer for these since the public meeting is taking place and we went through more of the details then. So as Councillor Leatherbarrow said, the subject lands are described as Lot 4, Plan 246, Lot 15, Plan 227, Part Lot 16, Plan 227, Part Lane, Part Plan 227, and are municipally known as 24 Bain Street. The subject lands are designated low-density residential in Oxford County's official plan and zoned R2 in the city of Woodstock zoning bylaw. The purpose of the application for consent is to create a lot for residential purposes and retain a lot containing an existing detached single dwelling. A semi-detached dwelling is proposed to be constructed on the lands to be severed. The applicant is proposing to obtain relief from section 7.2 of the bylaw are 2 provisions to reduce the minimum required lot frontage for the lot to be retained from 9 meters to 7.3 meters, to reduce the required lot frontage for the lot to be severed from 18 meters to 15.7 meters, and to reduce the required interior side yard for the proposed retained lands from 7 meters to 1.8 or from 3 meters to 1.8 meters. The proposed severance is a form of infill housing, and infill housing is the placement of new residential development, including the creation of new lots into an established built-up area on vacant or underutilized lands. Infill housing is supported in low-density residential areas within our official plan. Staff have reviewed the minor variances and are of the opinion that the proposed variances are appropriate. In particular, although the side yard that they're requesting is 1.8 meters, It represents an addition that's near the rear of the dwelling. So there's actually 3 meters where you can park a car in the side yard to meet the required standard for off-street parking. So staff are satisfied that way. The requested minor variances meet the tests, 4 tests of the minor variance under the Planning Act and can be supported.
Thank you. Any questions of the planner? From council? No? Okay. Monday night did a great job answering questions. So thank you very much. With that, I'll call the vote then. All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. Next up, we have OP 22-23-8 and ZN 8-22-17. Looking for motion. Councillor Wheaton.
Thank you, your worship. That Woodstock City Council support the application to amend the official plan file number OP 22-23-8 submitted by 1666144 Ontario Limited and 5034-133 Ontario Limited for lands legally described as Part Block A, Plan 160, Parts 3 to 10, 41R 9470, Concession 1, East Oxford, Part Lots 7, 8, 11, and 12, north side of Henry Street, Plan 212 in the city of Woodstock to redesignate the subject property from transitional industrial to service commercial to facilitate the construction of mixed-use commercial and residential buildings. And further, that Woodstock City Council approve in principle the zone change application file number ZN 8-22-171. There's a number missing there. Is there a number missing there? Is it -17? 166144 Ontario Limited and 5034-133 Ontario Limited for lands legally described as Part Block A, Plan 160, Parts 3 through 10, 41R 9470, Concession 1, East Oxford, Part Lots 7, 8, 11, and 12, north side of Henry Street, Plan 212 in the city of Woodstock, rezone the lands from Special Highway Commercial C452 and Special Traditional Institutional M4-11 as an amended Special Highway Commercial C452 and to amend the existing text of the C452 zone to permit the proposed mixed-use commercial and residential buildings with a number of modified zoning provisions, and further that any comments received from the public were reviewed and considered before the decision was made in relation to this planning matter.
Thank you. Looking for a seconder on the motion. Councillor Leatherborough, Mr. Miller.
So the subject lands are legally described as Part Block A, Plan 160, Parts 3 to 10, 41R 9470, Concession 1, East Oxford, Part Lots 7, 8, 11, and 12, north side of Henry Street, Plan 212 in the city of Woodstock. The lands are located on the northeast corner of Henry Street and Victoria Street North in the city of Woodstock, immediately south of the CN rail line. The subject lands are currently designated traditional industrial in the county's official plan and are proposed to be designated special service commercial. The subject lands are currently zoned special highway commercial and special traditional industrial in the city zoning bylaw, and they're proposed to be amended to a special highway commercial. Application's been received to amend the official plan and city's zoning bylaw amendment to permit a mixed-use commercial residential development comprising potentially 2 buildings located on separate parcels, 1 on each parcel, containing first floor commercial units and a maximum of 30 dwelling units per building. Right now, a number of factors limit the site's abilities to be developed. 2 severances required to consolidate the lands for the planned development have not yet been completed. A record of site condition is required to ensure that the lands are not contaminated prior to residential development taking place. And due to the close proximity of the subject lands to the CN rail line, mitigation measures, berm, crash wall, whatever satisfies CN are required before development can take place. As such, as part of this, staff has requested a holding provision with the criteria that those conditions be met before the holding provision is removed. Typically, conversions from employment lands, industrial lands in this case, to other uses are only done through comprehensive reviews. However, a 2018 incorporation of lands from Norwich Township provides additional employment land supply that was approved through a secondary plan that was adopted by council in 2022. Staff recommended that subject lands be redesignated special service commercial in county's official plan. Although the service commercial designation permits accessory residential uses, it doesn't contemplate the number of residential uses that are considered in this proposal. So a special service commercial designation is required to recognize the additional residential units that are proposed. The applicant is also proposing the special provisions to the existing zoning. So currently a dwelling unit is permitted. They're requesting a maximum of 30 dwelling units. Currently an 11-meter maximum height is permitted. They're requesting 23 meters. In the current special provisions, there are setbacks for parking areas that are to be carried forward in this. So they're similar. So that is nil or zero for the lots that are joining each other when they're consolidated, and nil for a setback for the parking areas from the street line. They're also requesting that an accessory structure be built to serve the residential uses on here with a maximum area of 155 square meters. For the rationale provided in the report and described at Monday's public meeting, staff recommend approval in principle of the zone change and support for the official plan amendment to County Council.
Thank you. Any questions from the planner? Any comments in general? I'll certainly say this is just another example of how the city is looking to use more of what we have here within the city is more efficiently, looking at different uses of lands from commercial to residential to absolutely help with our growing need here in the city of Woodstock. So with that, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. Carried. Thank you. And next up, I'll actually ask Acting Mayor Lauder to come forward for the last one.
Thank you. So the next planning application is 9C, SB 22-05-8 and ZN 8-22-21, application for draft plan of subdivision and zone change, Reeves Land Corporation. Could I have a motion on this? Councillor Kate?
I'll move that Woodstock City Council approve in principle the zone change application file number ZN 822-21 with the exception of the requested 6.5 meter rear yard depth submitted by Reeves Land Corporation for lands legally described lots 6, 7, 8, 15, 16, and 17, Plan 49 in the city of Woodstock to rezone the lands from Special Residential Zone 2 and Special Residential Zone 3 to similarly amended R2 and R3 zones to facilitate the proposed draft plan of subdivision, and further that any comments received from the public were reviewed and considered before the decision was made in relation to this planning matter, and further that Woodstock City Council advised County Council that the city supports the application for draft plan of subdivision, file number SB 22-05-8 submitted by Reeves Land Corporation for lands illegally described lots 6, 7, 8, 15, 16, 17, Plan 49 in the city of Woodstock, subject to the following conditions of draft approval, and there are 26 conditions.
Second by Councillor Schattenberg. Thank you. On the planner now, Mr. Miller.
Subject lands are described as lots 6, 7, 8, 15, 16, and 17, Plan 49, City of Woodstock. The subject lands are bound by Riddell Street to the west, Vincent Street to the north, Wellington Street to the east, and Brant Street to the south. The subject lands are designated low-density residential within the county's official plan and are currently designated special R2 and R3 zones within the city's zoning bylaw. The proposal is to amend the provisions to the R2 and 3 zones, but keeping them the same zone types. The city of Woodstock and the county of Oxford have received applications for a draft plan of subdivision and zone change on the subject lands. The application for draft plan of subdivision proposes to facilitate the development of a residential plan of subdivision comprised of 23 lots for single attached dwellings and 44 townhouse units, and one new street extending between Riddell and Wellington Street, sort of located about 3/4 of the way north through the property that you can see in the zoning map there. The current designations of the land was established via an extensive planning process led by the Woodstock Hospital in the province, with a view to ensuring that development of the former hospital site would be compatible and complementary to the surrounding neighborhoods. The zone change application proposes to rezone the subject lands from special R2 and R3 zones to alternative special R2 and R3 zones. Within the special provisions proposed, the applicant has requested a minimum front yard depth of 4.5 meters to the principal dwelling and 6 meters to the garage. The 6 meters to the garage makes sure that you have enough space to park a car in front of there, gives you enough space to be seen and see before you pull out onto the road. The applicant has further proposed a minimum lot coverage of 50% for all housing types on the proposed land. Staff recommend that this provision be clear that the 50% coverage proposed is for all buildings and structures, so the principal dwelling, any accessory structures, things like that, to be permitted on the lot. So if you build your house at 50% lot coverage, it essentially doesn't leave you any room for accessory structures. If you build at 40%, you got 10% for accessory structures and things like that. On most parts within the draft plan, parts 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 on plate 3 of the application of the plates that are attached here. So if I can get down to there for you. The applicant has proposed a minimum rear yard depth of 6.5 meters. Staff are of the opinion that reducing the rear yard depth further as proposed by the applicant across the whole draft plan potentially compromises the ability for the lands in each site to provide adequate drainage and things like that. So we don't support the rear yard, the reduced rear yard depth in this scenario. On part 5 of the draft plan, the applicant has requested a minimum lot depth of 21 meters. Similar to the reduced rear yard depths, the lot depth makes sure that you have enough space to provide drainage, grading, amenity space, things like that. In this case, those lots back onto the park space. So the reduced depth will also mean that the lots need to be wider. The park space also mitigates some of those factors that complement it, or that complicate the issue of drainage and grading neighbors in your backyard that you wouldn't have if it was through the entire subdivision. Rather, it's located just where the bit of park makes the lots necessarily shorter. And regarding part 6, the applicant is proposing a text amendment that would define the park boundary as a side yard for any affected lots. This request is intended to ensure that setbacks from the park boundary reflect the proposed orientation of future lots and should meet adequate setbacks for drainage, grading, maintenance, and access. I'd also like to point out that from the Monday meeting, the applicant has requested an amendment to condition 13 in the draft plan conditions. This has just provided a little more specificity that makes the applicant more comfortable regarding record of site conditions and certificates of use. It doesn't change it much, but what it does is when this originally went through the process, the province did a record of site condition for the lands and things like that. That's why the park is located where it is. This makes sure that when the applicant develops their detailed drawings, the servicing is in conformity with what was done there. So they need to hire their engineer to make sure that it is in conformity with that. So the wording's been changed to better reflects that to satisfy the applicant. Staff are satisfied that the application can be given favorable consideration with the exception of the requested reduced minimum rear yard depths, and staff support the zone change with the removal of the request for alternative rear yard depths. The previously noted agency comments in the report have been addressed through recommended conditions of the draft approval and have been provided for council's consideration. Staff recommend approval in principle of the zone change and recommend support to county council for the draft plan of subdivision.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council? Councillor Leatherborough.
Through Madam Chair, just a question for staff, actually, for Ms. Horan from Parks and Recreation. I was just wondering, for the public's benefit, could you share any details of what that park will look like? You know, small, medium, large, things like that. Thanks.
through the chair to the councillor's question, at this time, we don't have a detailed park design. We're still waiting on more information as the subdivision becomes available. It will be a neighborhood park, so interior pathway to a playgrounds, benches, trees is typically what we place in a neighborhood park.
Councillor Wheaton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through to the planner, and you don't have to stand up. I can't remember if I didn't ask this question on Monday night or if I didn't write down my answer. Do we know what the total number of units is for this, this project?
So, sorry, my mic, I can't get it to turn on over there, so I'll stand up anyway. Through the chair, the total number of units will be 44 townhouse units and 23 singles. So he hasn't shown the lot, so there may be some flexibility there, but that's when it's anticipated.
Are there any other questions? Councillor Tate?
Just a comment, no offense to the planner, but it's Riddell Street. I grew up on that street, so it's Riddell. And then later on, we ended up living Wellington Street, actually right across from where Councillor Lesabero lives and grew up there. So I'm looking forward to see the development on that land. It's been empty for a long time, and now I only live a couple blocks away. So I'm sure both of us are looking forward to the development and finally getting some housing in there.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, I've been on the hospital board since pretty well since the hospital moved, and I will be glad to see that. I'm sure everyone will be glad to see that something happening there. So looking forward to this. So since there's no other questions, I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. That's unanimous. Turn it over to the mayor now.
Thank you, Acting Mayor Lauder. So next up, consideration of correspondence. And Councillor Wheaton has requested. So Councillor Wheaton, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Schadenberg that Woodstock, no, wait, my other sheet. Whereas speeding on our roads is a major concern in our community, and whereas speeding can occur in all areas of our community, and whereas barriers and delays to enforcement pose a danger in our community, and whereas our municipality has limited resources to implement speed mitigation, road design, and redesign, and whereas our local police service has limited resources to undertake speed enforcement, and whereas Section -205-1 of the Highway Traffic Act provides that automated speed enforcement systems, or ASE, may only be placed in designated community safety zones and school safety zones. Therefore, be it resolved that the City of Woodstock requests that the Ontario government amend S-205-1 of the Highway Traffic Act to permit municipalities to locate an ASE system permanently or temporarily on any roadway under the jurisdiction of municipalities and as determined by municipalities, and not be restricted to only community safety zones and school safety zones, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the Ontario Minister of Transportation, the Ontario Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Oxford MPP Ernie Hardeman, and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and all municipalities. And my apologize to all of council that I did provide this motion to the clerk, but should have circulated it to you all before reading. This mirrors the resolution put forward by the City of Cambridge that is in your agenda package.
Okay, the clerk is sending it out to everybody now if you'd like to read it and take a moment beforehand, but okay, that's okay with the seconder, of course. Okay, any discussion? Councillor Wheaton, would you like to speak to it?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to it. I did have the opportunity, actually before this piece of correspondence came forward to us from the City of Cambridge, to meet with the police chief and subsequently with the CAO to talk about traffic, to talk about accidents, to talk about speed, to talk about highway safety, and to talk about what is it that we as a municipality can do to curb behaviors, human behaviors to alleviate future traffic accidents. So automated speed enforcement systems are one of the techniques that really do affect human behavior when it comes to speeding on urban streets as well as rural streets. The advantage to ASEs is they not only measure speed, but they do collect data and in potential circumstances can collect images of infractions. So I took a look at some of the areas based on the data that is collected annually on the motor vehicle incidents and also annual average daily traffic counts. And so looking at some of those really heavily traveled roadways and areas where we do have known high amounts of incidents. So examples would be all along Norwich, up from north from the 401 to Parkinson, Springbank from Parkinson to Dundas, Dundas from Clark to Lansdowne, Devonshire from Van Sittert to Clark, Devonshire at Springbank. Those are certainly areas that are highly traveled, high pedestrian and vehicular traffic, and could be potential areas that if the province were to amend this section of the Highway Traffic Act, we could put resources into more passive protection rather than very expensive police protection and traffic activities.
Thank you. As a seconder, Councillor Schadenberg, would you like to speak to this at all?
I think Councillor Wheaton covered it very nicely, but there certainly are some areas where in the city of Woodstock where you look at a municipal street where, for example, there's a lot of cars parked on that street because they're legally allowed to park there. And this might give us the opportunity to do a bit of a traffic study in a more of a casual way than be able to understand later on as to why people are either going too fast down certain areas, up hills or down hills where there's maybe some blind driveways as well. That's necessarily outside of school areas in particular.
Thank you. And I believe Councillor Leatherborough.
Through your worship, just general comments of reminding people to slow down because life is really quick and really fast. And I know there's a lot of distracted drivers on phones now as well too. So if I can just plug that, take an extra minute so you don't harm yourself or somebody else. It's really important. Both counselors have said great pieces, but just slow down, please.
100%. Anyone else? Well, I'll certainly echo council again, especially Councillor Leatherborough. I think if we all took a minute and slowed down a little bit, we would be a lot safer out there for not only ourselves, but our children and everybody else in the vehicles around us. So please pay attention. Please educate yourselves. If you need more time, so be it. Give yourself more time to get where you're going to be. And with that, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. Carried. And next up, Councillor Schadenberg. Councillor Schadenberg, go ahead.
I didn't get a seconder for this motion beforehand, but I'm sure I'll get one after I read the motion. Moved by Councillor Schadenberg, the Woodstock City Council support the resolution passed by United Counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry regarding proposed changes to the provincial policy statement, and further that a copy of the resolution be forwarded to the United Counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry, the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honorable Steve Clark, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the Honorable Lisa Thompson, Minister of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, the Honorable Dave Piccini, the Minister of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, the Honorable Ernie Hardeman, Oxford MPP, and also, of course, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario.
Thank you. And looking for a seconder? Councillor Lauder? Councillor Schadenberg, would you like to speak to this?
I know later on in this meeting, we've got an agenda item about boundary adjustments. So it's also talking about maybe the intensification of the city, but it's not necessarily just the city of Woodstock and how it looks upon it. It's who has the official plan designation or control of the official plan, where of course now it's the upper tier of the county of Oxford. And we got Mr. Miller here today as one of our county planners that's actually representing the county of Oxford here and not the city of Woodstock. So the idea being that when the provincial policy statement gets reviewed or previewed by the city of Woodstock, i.e. the county of Oxford, and our official plan as we go through sustainability studies and whatnot, that we control our own destiny. That's kind of the wording that was used in the motion, and that it promotes rural residential and small clusters too. There's the provincial policy statement as has been proposed, not yet passed. And therefore the townships have a say too into one of these things that the county of Oxford can sort of say, well, do we like this idea or don't we like this idea? And I think the province of Ontario is maybe pushing too much upon us in both directions, the municipalities and on the rural side.
Thank you. Councillor Lauder, would you like to speak to it as seconder?
I think Councillor Schadenberg covered it all.
Okay. Any other discussion? Councillor Tate?
Just a comment, I agree with Councillor Schadenberg's comments. I've always said, the years I've been here, that provincial policy statements needs to be written for the big city, Toronto, and we don't get much of a say anymore. So hopefully they'll take a look at this and listen to us for a change, and we can have some control of what goes over here. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Wheaton?
Thank you, Your Worship, for the opportunity to speak to this. The closing date for comments back to the province on this proposed, the draft PPS provincial planning statement was June 5th. And since that date, because so many rural communities across Ontario did speak up, that's a good word, strongly speak up against some of the proposed pieces in the legislation, specifically around rural lot development. Verbally, we are getting an indication that the province may be backing away from that, although nothing, of course, is in writing and the draft PPS has not been finalized. We can be optimistic that they will continue to back away from that. And yet I think we need to continue to be vigilant in our messaging and in our discussions and in our policy planning to ensure that we take those steps and support a provincial planning statement that works for all of Woodstock and Oxford County and our surrounding community.
Thank you. Any other comment? Well, I'll certainly say that it's quite the kid. Well, maybe no coincidence, but that this comes forward tonight when we are talking about boundary adjustments a little later on. This is a prime example where the province is certainly trying to dictate what or how we grow and how much we grow. Agree with it or not, the provincial policies that we have to do what we can. And it's always better that we talk amongst ourselves and we do better together and grow together. This is Bill 97, Bill 23, certainly are much more Toronto oriented in my opinions. But we've still got to play a little bit within the rules. So by sending this, and I thank Councillor Schadenberg for finding this and bringing it forward to certainly bring forward to say, hey, we are a little bit different here in Oxford County. We're not trying to be the same as everybody else, but we still have needs. We still have needs as a city to make sure everybody has housing. So we're not saying no to growth. We are just saying, let us do it on a much slower pace. But with that, I'll call a vote. All those in favor with the motion on the floor. Carried. Thank you. No staff presentations or mayor reports tonight. No councillor reports. We do have some department reports, administrative services, statement of revenue and expenditures, and statement of capital expenditures for period ending May 31st, 2023. Looking for a motion, Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. I'll move that Woodstock City Council receive the statement of revenue and expenditure and the statement of capital expenditures for the period ending May 31st, 2023 as information.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Leatherborough. Discussion or questions? I'll just simply say it. Oh, Councillor Schadenberg.
Really is more of a statement or a good news question to pass along to the engineering office. And I noticed that the transit fare revenue for the whole entire year, the budget was $540,000 to be attained through revenues from transit in the city of Woodstock for buses. But through the first 5 months to the end of May 31st, that number is already at 296,000. So that's a very good number to sort of say that we are reviving or bouncing back as far as the transit numbers go and bus usage in the city of Woodstock.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? No, I'll certainly say, I think it's certainly good news. We seem to be on track with everything, so keep doing what we're doing for right now. Next up, we do have no engineering, cultural services. Oh, I'm sorry. We do need a vote. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. Carried. Thank you. Now I'll check it out. As mentioned, no engineering or cultural services reports, but we do have Parks and Recreation with Cedar Creek Salter Avenue. Looking for a motion. Councillor Leatherborough,
Through your worship, moved by myself that Woodstock City Council approves the mayor and clerk to enter into a purchase and sale agreement for a land swap of a portion of Cottle Park for an equivalent transfer of the Gulf North land in accordance with option D 1.0 A, not within the floodplain, subject to satisfactory completion of the zone change. And further, that city council authorize the filling of a zone change application for this proposed land swap.
thank you. Looking for a seconder. Councillor Lauder. Discussion? No? Oh, Councillor Schanberg, sorry.
I know representing Brian Connors from the Parks and Recreation Department tonight is Rita Haran, so I want to ask her to this Cottle Park, of course, is just off Parkinson, but it's kind of an interesting scenario here that's going to be a benefit to the residents of that neighborhood. And of course, at the same time, Gulf North has its property that they can do a bit of a land swap as this is discussed as being. The benefits to the neighborhood are going to be additional parking in that area, and it's a neat park too that's got a garden area as well.
Is there a question there, Councillor Schanberg?
Maybe not so much. No, not a question.
Come on, we got to ask her a question. I already warned her. She's not used to coming to council, so we have to ask her something. Can you explain to everybody at home watching what we're doing?
Yes, so the land swap would provide the opportunity for us to create parking for the end of Salter that would be away from the existing residential properties. And with Gulf North property possibly coming online to be an extension of Southside Park, that would provide a great entrance at the midway of that portion of property. So that's essentially what this land swap is allowing us to do.
And I might add, we're the advantage of adding 2 more additional residences at the same time is, again, the goal of every move we make. With that, any other questions before I call the vote? No? All those in favor? None opposed. That's carried. Again, that's great news. That means there's 40 additional acres of land for Southside Park for the citizens of Woodstock and our neighbors to use and enjoy. Economic development, proposed buyback of 1.98 hectares of industrial land in the Batulo Ridge Business Park. Looking for motion, Councillor Tate, second by Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council authorize staff to initiate the buyback of the industrial lands on Jack Ross Ave from Execulink Telecom, and that the municipality reacquire the lands at 100% of the original purchase price, and further that financing for the repurchase be sourced from the Industrial Land Reserve Fund.
Thank you. Any questions of council? Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Through the chair, kind of maybe just if Mr. Magyar could explain to, I know it's in the report for us, but maybe for the general public, how this works in buying back. And I know there was some good news in there in the fact of what the retail value could be once we purchased it back.
Your worship, through to the council's question. Yeah, so this is a property on Jack Ross Ave in our Batulo Ridge Business Park. It's about 5 acres. We sold it originally to Great Northern some number of years ago. They had an ownership change and decided they didn't need the property, so we acquired it back. Then Execulink came along and they had some reasons to grow, and so we sold the lands to them, but a number of things changed in their business plan. I think the biggest thing really was with the number of people now working from home, they didn't need the full complement of people in the area. So they approached us to reacquire the lands. Typically when we buy lands back, is typically at 90% of the purchase price. So it's meant to be a bit of a penalty for those people who are doing things that are maybe a little more speculative, who take the lands out of the market, out of use, that sort of thing. In this case, that's not the case at all. This is a company that's it's taken some time for them to realize that they don't need the lands for what they had originally intended. Obviously, they've been in the community for a long time. They're great corporate citizens, so as staff, we're recommending reacquiring lands at the full purchase price, 100%. And as you've noted, now with what's happened in the industrial land market, we'll be able to put these lands back on the market and secure a significantly higher purchase price. Interestingly, I've already had 2 people express interest in this property. So again, just an indication what's happening in the market. So I think it's good news that we're, if council goes with the recommendation, we'll treat Executive Link, I think, very fairly. And then, of course, we'll benefit from somebody new coming along.
Thank you for that. Any other questions or comments? I certainly think this is more than fair as well. Executive Link's been a very important company here in the city of Woodstock. And of course, COVID has changed, the pandemic changed, well, a lot of people's way they're doing business. And this is one of those effects we've seen. So for them approaching us to say, listen, we don't need this anymore due to business plans, we'll certainly find a new home and more businesses. So thank you. And with that, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed, carried. Next up, we have Athlone Place Industrial Land Sale and Street Closure. Councillor Schadenberg.
The Woodstock City Council close and declare surplus Athlone Place east of Athlone Avenue. The Woodstock City Council authorized the mayor and clerk to sign agreements of purchase and sale with the owners of 645 Athlone Place, which is 11447556 Canada Inc., as described above, and that the necessary bylaw be prepared.
Thank you. Looking for a seconder on the motion. Councillor Leatherborough. Discussion? Well, I'll certainly say that here's another example of the city looking at lands that don't necessarily are required within and trying to do the best use. And I will ask Mr. Mager if he doesn't mind explaining to the public for those watching and wondering what we're talking about.
Your worship, through to council. Basically what we have here is a small parcel land, Athlone Place, in the city's southern part of the community along the 401. We were approached by this company who was interested in acquiring this property. It's a pretty unique place because it's basically a cul-de-sac. They're the only property owner that actually fronts onto it. So they were interested in acquiring the property, gives them some more control over their entire site. And gives them some flexibility with respect to moving trucks around, that sort of thing. So it's taken quite a long time to actually get here. We had to get some clearances from certainly city engineering that they were comfortable with this, and also the county through their public works department. But we've received all those clearances now, and so the company's anxious to see this go through. So I'll probably be calling them and go back tomorrow to let them know that that it was approved. But as I say, it's been a while coming, but it's a piece of land that really only benefits them. And so that's why we're not going through the normal process of offering half to one person and half to another person. So it's a quicker process other than the getting the approvals internally. So
Thank you for that. Any final questions before I call the vote? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed, carried. Nothing from clerks tonight. Chief Administrative Officer though, City Hall Security. Looking for a motion, Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. I'll move that Woodstock City Council approve $20,000 finance from the contingency reserve to retain professional security services for City Hall.
Thank you. Looking for a seconder, Councillor Leatherborough. Discussion? Councillor Schadenberg.
Yeah, just to confirm from the mayor through to CAO or finance, that's just for what's left of this calendar year.
Your worship, through to Councillor Schadenberg, no, that would be just for the summer. And we would monitor the need for this security presence going forward. We hope it would not be needed. It can change very quickly.
Councillor Wheaton.
Thank you, your worship. Just a question of staff. The report doesn't outline any terms of service, so I was just wondering if this, if you can elaborate on the number of staff, the number of hours per day or per week that this covers, and the worker environment. I'm wondering if will we enter into a contract for service for the delivery of this? Are we under contract and we're just extending a contract? Could you provide just a little bit more detail than what's in the report for me, please?
Your worship, through to Councillor Wheaton. We are currently under contract for security services for the purposes of downtown security, as well as parking enforcement in the downtown and the broader community. And for the up to this point, that is where we've sourced the security requirements, but we're borrowing from other purposes to do so. So we are exploring options. If council were to approve this, we would be looking at either extending the current contract that we have or looking for a different service provider to see if there's somebody else that we can use to provide a different level of security professional for our particular purpose. So it's still under review. The hours would be essentially the working hours. This is a measure to protect the city staff who work at City Hall. This is a measure to protect the City Council when you're doing business here during the working hours. We would be looking to extend this to the council, the evening meetings, the planning meetings as well. So as I say, the need for the security is very specific, and the circumstances can change very quickly.
If I could follow up. Thank you for that clarification, because so the question around evening meetings and so on was on my mind, and so understanding that piece. So so I do appreciate that. I think professional security coverage will go a long way to making us all, staff and council, feeling a little safer.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Lauder?
Just a comment that I fully support this. I think that we have to keep everyone safe that's in the building. And yeah, I totally agree. So thank you very much for bringing this forward.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments before I call the vote? With that, all those in favor? None opposed. Carried. Next, we do have strategic priorities realignment workshop outcome. Looking for motion. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council approves in principle the refreshed list of prioritized action items from the strategic priorities realignment workshop.
Thank you. Looking for a seconder on that. Councillor Leatherborough. Discussion? Councillor Leatherborough?
Through your worship, just it's great to have the results back and to see all of the feedback. So thank you to Colleen Collins as well as Mary Reed for directing and really just helping us, kind of channel all of our thoughts coming together, and her enthusiasm. I thought it was a great experience, and I was really happy that our priorities also aligned with the community's priorities for the most part, and for the public's knowledge, or those that are watching. Number one was provide a safe community for all, and I'll speak for myself, and I'm sure the rest of my teammates, my colleagues, that is a key priority. So just really happy to see these results and see what we can do moving forward.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions of staff? Councillor Wheaton.
I'll echo Councillor Leatherborough that I was really pleased with the response from the community. I think there were some really articulate comments made that really help bolster the strategic plan and give it the energy it needs for implementation and the direction for council to implement so many of these objectives. So thank you to the community for those who did participate. I look forward to implementation. There are a number of very not aggressive, specific but attainable but lofty goals and objectives and action items here that I know that as we go about implementing them will make a significant impact, positive impact in our community. So looking forward to implementation.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'll just say this was certainly a fun exercise, if I dare say, going over each of these different examples, looking at what we've done in the past, massaging it and changing, of course. The world has changed a lot in the last few years. So by having us decide as a council what our strategic goals are, what our priorities are, is very specific. I think I'm quite proud of this council for looking at things, realizing what's attainable and addressing those virtually immediately for the next 3.5 years, what we got to get done. And then on top of that, of course, to have the public respond in very, very similar ways as the way we feel around this shows that we do have a really good representation of the community here around this horseshoe. And with that, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed, carried. May I also say that if anybody's curious about that, by all means, go on to the City of Woodstock. So cityofwoodstock.ca/agendas and minutes, and you will be able to go and look at everything we're talking about tonight. And there's a great display of everything that we get, and it's for the public to enjoy. Okay, and thank you. And next up, we do a boundary adjustment update. Councillor Schadenberg.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that pursuant to section 174 of the Municipal Act 2001 SO 2001 C25, the Woodstock City Council requests the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing to establish a commission for the purposes of developing a proposal for a restructuring of municipalities by annexing a portion of the adjoining townships to the City of Woodstock. And further, the council approves $50,000 financed from the Hydro Reserve Fund for professional services to support the establishment of a commission.
Thank you. Looking for a seconder of the motion. Councillor Lauder. Discussion. Councillor Schadenberg.
As has been discussed there earlier in this meeting, your worship, and certainly by yourself and others, that we've had the number of brownfields that have been developed residentially in the city of Woodstock, talking about this, for example, the old Southside Hotel by the train tracks, for example. But I think of 5 others very quickly that I scribbled down: Adelaide and Victoria, Finkel in Alberta, Lansdowne in Devonshire, Oxford at Hunter, and also Broadway at Simcoe Street. Those are just 5 projects that aren't even under construction as of yet, that are brownfields that are being developed. But not sure if the CAO can confirm this number or not, but as we look at the population of the city of Woodstock and what Stats Canada says, we're very quickly approaching 50,000 people. And I know there's 3 approved residential subdivision areas, including the former Woodstock Meadows Golf Course, that are under development now. You can see them moving a lot of dirt and getting ready to put sewer systems in and whatnot for that area. But I think if you look long-term, 20 years, 25 years down the line, that there's the possibility of the city of Woodstock growing and needing additional space beyond that. That could be farmland for the next 15 or 20 years, but probably within 15 or 20 years will be needed for residential purposes.
Thank you. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. I'm fully aware of how time sensitive this process is. This council and previous councils has been very aggressive in approving infilling new apartment buildings, etc. According to the attached report, we have in 3 years housing supply and is an approved draft plans. We're using up our available areas. The report also indicates a need for an addition 225 gross developable hectares to accommodate a 20-year residential growth outlook. In my mind, it could be very difficult for us to promote industrial and commercial growth if we do not have adequate lands to increase residential going forward. I speak to this and I would like to hear what our other councillors have to say. I do have another motion if this doesn't go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. You have your mic on, or it's just, okay. Councillor Leatherborough.
Your worship. So where do I begin? I don't want to repeat everything that Councillor Schadenberg and Councillor Lauder have said. I'm very proud of us as a team to be really looking at density, infill, intensification. I think that that is the way City of Woodstock is moving, and that is something that whether we like it or lump it, as my grand would say, that is out of our hands. But what I primarily take issue with is when I supported boundary adjustments to begin with, and to be appointed to the Norwich boundary adjustment negotiation, I want to do that in good faith. I totally respect and understand the two failed or tried attempts prior to my arrival on council. I also have farming roots, and I understand and have learned quickly that this is a very sensitive subject for not only City of Woodstock residents, but our area municipalities. But with the landscape, and when I say that specifically looking to the province, I am not comfortable calling in the province to intervene. I think that undermines our abilities for planning and crafting and working with our area municipalities for what we do and will in fact need. So with that, I will say that I am comfortable continuing to negotiate in good faith, but I am not comfortable calling in the province at this time. And, you know, I understand too that we've supported a lot of correspondence in the 8 months that we've been around council, but this specific correspondence that we all spoke to, ironically, has come tonight. But I want to just put a quote here that really stuck out to me, which we've been pleading since we started this term. And I quote from the correspondence that Councillor Schadenberg, thank you, brought forward, and I support. Quote, urges the province to pause proposed changes to the PPS, particularly natural heritage and agricultural lands, reinvest in local planning authority of all 44 municipalities, recognizing that each Ontario municipality has unique landscapes, different housing needs, and different visions for local planning matters. Again, I am not to say that I am against boundary adjustment discussions, and I think in quite honesty, we aren't quite sure what will continue to be downloaded upon us. So I'll leave it there, but I do see a lot of faces in the audience, and I know people are inquiring about this, and I know passions can run deep. So, but that is how I feel as we move forward.
Councillor Wheaton.
Thank you, Your Worship. I won't be supporting the motion that's on the floor for a couple of reasons. I find that the report that was put in front of us is a little bit misleading in indicating that East-Sort Tavistock declined the opportunity. Declined is a word that means to politely refuse. In fact, their motion says that it was resolved that the Township of East-Sort Tavistock advised the City of Woodstock that it will consider the request to enter into boundary adjustment negotiation when the township's current secondary planning report and strategic planning process is finalized. I understand that East-Sort Tavistock, in my conversations with the mayor there, would like to understand their own growth needs before opening up discussions about Woodstock's growth needs. In my opinion, boundary adjustment is to be pursued constructively, collaboratively, and with respect to the wide variety of variables that are at play. And that Woodstock is not, in my opinion, entitled to growth and to land, and that we need to respect the natural process of discussions rather than, as Councillor Leatherborough said, inviting the province in at this time. I recognize that the province has very strong opinions and views right now about residential growth. As Councillor Tate said earlier, the province also has a very specific view on what I'll call the GTHA, which now includes Hamilton, and the needs of the GTHA and the needs of Woodstock and Oxford are very different. And I want us to bear in mind that we have grown exponentially in the last couple of years. We are ill prepared for a continuation of that kind of expedited growth. I believe yesterday at County Council, my seatmate, my neighbor here, did a presentation at Oxford County indicating that Woodstock's growth between 2016 and 2021 was 13.6%. Ontario's growth is 5.6%. And so we are way ahead of the provincial curve. And I think we probably need to rein that in and get that in check before we take enormous steps towards acquiring new land within our boundary. We just talked about our strategic planning process, and in so many areas of that strategic plan, we talked about updating our density targets. And we talked about, we don't know until we have those density targets, we don't know how many acres we actually need to support 200 houses or 500 houses or 1,000 houses. We need, I feel, in my opinion, we need more information before we can make sound decisions as council on this issue. So how many residential units? We've talked a little bit about what is the supply, what is in the queue right now. Councillor Schadenberg, you just mentioned the Meadows, Carn Road, a lot of this infilling that we've talked about over the last tonight and over the last many meetings. I actually know the answer to how many housing units are in the queue because I had a meeting with the Ministry of Education a week and a half ago, and I asked the planning department at the county what that number is. And within the last year, 11,000 units, housing units, have either been approved for building or in the draft plan of approval. 1,000 building permits across Oxford County have been issued. So that while building is underway of those 1,000, that still leaves 10,000 units are in the queue for development. My meeting with the Ministry of Education was under the umbrella of SCORE, South Central Ontario region, which covers Norfolk, Brant, Oxford, Elgin, and Middlesex. And so we pooled the numbers of how many housing units are in development in those 5 counties. And it's well north of 25,000 regional housing units are in the queue. And so I say those numbers because I want us to take a deep breath and really know what we're dealing with before we aggressively join at the hip with the province. And that's my fear, is that it could get aggressive. And that's my opinion. That I feel like we need a much more fulsome understanding of what our supply is, what our needs are, what our goals are for the growth of this city before we proceed in any discussions with the province. And I'd rather those discussions be with our neighbors in East or Tavistock.
Thank you. Any other questions, council? Councillor Schadenberg?
Yeah, without naming any townships whatsoever, your worship, I guess my best kind of response to one of these scenarios is to mention that in, well, I guess this would be mentioning a township, East or Tavistock, because I know the town of Innerkip, for example, is a proposal out for 96 residential units. And that's in a community where if they got Class A soils for agriculture and the north end of 17th line, if we want to do a boundary adjustment northward or westward, for that matter, into East or Tavistock, why is it that East or Tavistock feels it's all right to take up 96 residential units within their own community, when I always think of the environmental side of things, that people in Innerkip, as far as employment base goes, will still have to drive to work in Woodstock, drive to work in Stratford, drive to work in KW, wherever they happen to be working, because it really isn't an employment center. It could be a residential center, yes, but it's certainly not an employment center. And I've said the same thing before for communities like Mount Elgin before, that suddenly start putting together a big subdivision where they're obviously using up with an expansion within Southwest Oxford in that case, without having to do a boundary adjustment, because they're not doing a boundary adjustment, they're doing a residential circumference or whatever adjustment, to be able to sort of say, well, is that the right place to do residential improvement? No, but East or Tavistock doesn't have to come to the city of Woodstock to add properties to Innerkip.
Councillor Tate?
Through the chair, I also won't be supporting the motion. I think my views on boundary adjustments are pretty clear. I also agree with my 2 councillors that I think if we negotiate at some point, but to do a hard stance with our neighbor is not beneficial to any of us. I know at county we have some issues already, and I don't think it's in Woodstock's best interest to strong arm our neighboring township into this. I also have reservations about the province and the way they operate. None of our roads have been urbanized yet. We have had major growth and our roads are a mess. To do that bridge across the dam, I can't imagine the millions of dollars it's going to cost at some point because it was never built for the amount of traffic that's on it. Our taxes are already high in Woodstock. We're probably one of the highest ones. Now, mind you, always because we pay as we go, we don't have much debt, but residential does not pay its way, as I've always said, and I'm concerned that we're going to add more pressures on our existing residents to do with taxes. I have a whole other, lots of reasons why, but I'm not going to be supporting the motion.
Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Through the chair, just a general comment. I also will not be supporting the motion that's being presented at this time, simply based on pretty much exactly what's already been voiced. I don't need to repeat, but my biggest one is just, I think the stronghold, as Councillor Tate and both Councillor Leatherborough and Councillor Wheaton have said, is just, it's not sitting well with me. I want to do this in an amicable, friendly, in good faith way as well. These are our neighbors. They provide a lot for us and vice versa. And I just think there's got to be a better method for us to go about this. And I just can't support it based on that.
Thank you. Anyone else? I just want to make a couple of comments. It looks like Councillor Lauder, if I may. There was a lot of thought put into this, and this is more for everyone watching. I've been a part of the process since 2014 of looking for more land within the city of Woodstock. I'm a farm kid, I will admit. That's never changed. But sitting in this chair, I don't think anyone could understand the pressures of listening to so many people looking for homes, looking for places for their children, looking for places for their parents. I mean, I got lucky. We found a place in Interkip for my mom to go. But we went all the way to Godrich and all over to look at different places. There is a huge housing need. The province is putting a lot of pressure. That's no secret. Bill 97 and Bill 23 has changed the landscape for all of us. Again, as mayor, sometimes you gotta make tough decisions for the future. And this is one of those future. This is not for our term. We know that. Whatever we decide today as far as boundary adjustments is purely for the future. If there's a boundary adjustment, it would come into effect in the future. With the outcome, and yes, Mayor Schaefer and I have had a few good discussions, fully respect where they're coming from their planning. I guess if there's anything, I wish there was a commitment, I guess, to say, yes, we will talk, that there's a willingness to talk. And with their response from their council meeting, I will just remind council that there is not. They may consider, is right in, consider the request. And right here it says, while the exact time frame for finalization of these projects is not known at this time, it is anticipated that they will take a minimum 12 to 18 months to complete. Farming's always been an important part of our history and will continue to be part of Woodstock's future. I really hope everybody has been watching our county meetings where I have talked many times about cooperation and working with our neighbors. This here feels like I'm talking from the province, we now have a requirement, not an option. We have a requirement coming to us in this fall with a minimum of 25 years of future growth. And right now, we don't have that. So as mayor, it is my responsibility to try to do everything we can to meet those requirements. I would like the CAO to speak to this if he doesn't mind. We've worked together on a lot of these details. And yeah, if you don't mind, speak to this from your perspective as well. If you have anything else to add.
Your worship, I guess it's a fairly significant topic. I guess I draw a parallel to the City of London. How much agricultural land that is being farmed within the corporate boundaries of the City of London? And the answer would be quite a lot. It's important to draw the distinction between a corporate boundary and approved settlement boundary. A corporate boundary is the geography of your municipality. The geography of the City of London is massive relative to its settlement boundary. The settlement boundary is something, it's a planning exercise to identify the portions of that corporate boundary that should be made available for growth purposes because you have the capacity to service it with sewer, water, and the council zones it appropriately for that to send the signal to the private sector that it's ready for development. So in the City of London, the settlement boundary is quite a small subset of its corporate boundary. So there's a lot of land in the city corporate limits of City of London that is actively farmed. In the City of Woodstock, our settlement boundary bumps right up against the corporate boundary all around us. There is no buffer. In the first 3 months of the year, City Council draft plan approved all of the vacant land that remained in the City of Woodstock. So it creates a unhealthy economic condition when your settlement boundary is right up against your corporate boundary. The choice, the competition in housing goes down, the land supply goes down. There's nothing new to add to the free market. So the city has always looked internal for intensification. It's been a long-standing practice. For the last 30 years, I've witnessed the council make very difficult decisions, shoehorning new homes within existing built-up neighborhoods. And it gets quite difficult at times, upsetting existing established neighborhoods. The council has standing directions to the planning department to come back with reports, to make recommendations to increase the height and the density of what is permitted for residential redevelopment in the downtown core. Council's waiting for the report from the planning department to implement the additional residential units, the additional 2 or 3 units that are be allowed in every lot within the city, across the province, in fact, to implement that provincial policy. So that's coming. That hopefully will be on your next agenda next month. So the city's always looked up and looked in for addressing its growth needs. But the reality is that can't answer it for the long term. We have people moving to the city. We have people moving to the city to raise their family. And those people are looking for homes. They're not looking for basement apartments. They're not looking for apartments in apartment buildings. They're looking for homes. And the City of Woodstock has a finite supply of that. Our settlement boundary is jammed up against our corporate boundary. And so that's the harsh reality of the condition. And as time rolls on, that will just become more frustrating. And the market impact of that will drive affordability in a direction that we're trying to avoid.
Yeah, this is not a planning, or this is not an open meeting, I'm sorry, for the public. Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I guess from those watching, just a simple delay of another couple of years puts, you know, another 8 to 10 years for anything at minimum to be looking ground ready. But saying that, that doesn't mean those owning land has to sell. They can be farming those lands as long as they want without any. It's up to the landowners to decide who they sell to and what the purpose of the land. So with that, Councillor Lauder, I think you had your hand up.
Can I bring forward another motion, or do you want to vote on this one and I bring forward?
Can I request a recorded vote?
Okay. Sure, if you like, yes, of course.
Councillor Wheaton,
No.
Councillor Wismer Van Meer,
No.
Mayor Ashioni,
Yes.
Councillor Lauder,
Yes,
Councillor Leatherbear,
No.
Councillor Shattenberg,
Yes.
and Councillor Tate.
No.
The motion carries. Defeated, sorry. My apologies.
Motion's defeated. 4-3. Okay. Sorry. Now,
So-
Councillor Lauder, if you'd like.
I'd like to put this motion forward for council's decision. I'll move that that city council defer consideration of the recommendation to allow for discussion between the mayor and CAO and the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and report back to council with an additional, any additional information.
Thank you. Is there a seconder to that motion? Councillor Sandberg? Would you like to speak to that, Councillor Lauder?
Yes, I'm suggesting this resolution in order to allow council additional time for information and discussion before making any decisions. And I know this is a very difficult decision to make, but I think it's something that we do have to look forward to, because it isn't today that we're thinking about. It is in years to come. So it's up to our city council to decide what to do here, and I'll leave it at that.
Councillor Leatherborough?
Through your worship, I'm not sure if this would be a question for staff, or Councillor Lauder, seeing as, you've brought this forward, but I just would like clarification how this is different from what we just voted on in terms of how do we move forward with East Zora Tavistock, and or how do we do this amicably without involvement from the province? Because otherwise I feel I still can't support this based on what I've just shared in the previous motion. So I'm just looking for the differences if I'm missing that.
Your worship, through to Councillor Leatherberg, I'll take a crack at it. I don't. In terms of differences, this isn't asking specifically for a commission. This is asking for a dialogue with the province and then a report back to council. So it would be having a discussion with the province about, you know, can they assist in the way of appointing a mediator or a facilitator? So it's not specific to one thing. It's to see if there's any assistance, but there's no action until such time as the results of that discussion, if you so direct, comes back to council.
So through your worship, I'm being a little cheeky here, but would East Zora Tavistock Mayor attend as well? Or a representation from that council?
I'll answer that. No, I would absolutely welcome that. What I'm very fearful of, to be blunt, and I say counselor because I sit on county council with them, but Mayor Schaefer, what I'm concerned about is the province coming in, like they just recently did in St. Thomas, and took 1,500 acres, put it into St. Thomas that, in my opinion, doesn't really make sense for the city themselves. They just took a bunch of land and threw it in. I would much rather, again, I've been very blunt at county council as well as here, that I would always prefer to work together. So certainly would have that discussion and welcome Mayor Schaefer to welcome any meetings. I believe this council does know, but I have sat down with the chief of staff for the Minister of Housing, and this has been addressed as the biggest detriment to the city of Woodstock right now is our future land supply. So we are on their radar. They know this. Yes, I guess by us being a little bit more proactive is the goal behind all of tonight. Our whole thing is trying to be proactive and being part of those discussions instead of them coming and saying, here's X number of acres, wherever that might be, because it may not just be an EZT. It could be anywhere, as St. Thomas just proved. It could be anywhere. This is just simply our way of saying we want to play ball, but we want to do it on our term. That's the whole point to, I think, Councillor Schattenberg's earlier motion that we did approve, is we all agree we don't want to be dictated to, but everybody in this room, we just did a strategic workshop, realizes housing is one of the top priorities for the city of Woodstock. So if we want ever to have affordable housing, again, the only way to drive prices down is to have a reasonable supply. And right now, we do not have a reasonable supply of affordable homes. I don't want to see my kids growing up in the basement of my house for the rest of their lives because they can't afford to find an apartment. I don't want my mom living in another town because she can't afford to have another apartment here in the city of Woodstock. As a council, we have to look at our future. We're not here for just today. What our decisions we make today are 10 to 20 years from now plus. Councillor Tate brought up infrastructure. I will admit, we have some major concerns. Our roads were not designed for some of the traffic we have coming at us over the next 5 years. The first one to admit that. But with proper planning, when you know what direction you're going in, now we can plan on roads and sewers and so much more, even though it may not be used today, but we know what's coming. And now you plan on better roads and infrastructures around that. Right now, we do not have that. We don't have those capabilities. Right now, we are putting apartment buildings where it used to be commercial lands because we don't have housing. So for the next councils and the following councils after that, so they have an opportunity for plans of subdivision, and the families that are affected and the companies that are looking for those employees as farmers and businesses, everyone is looking for employees that can't afford to live right now in the city of Woodstock. We have that control, but we control it today for the future. Councillor Leatherburn.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just one final thing. So two pieces. I won't be supporting this on the basis of, I respect everything that you're saying, and as leadership, I share, and I think we all share that level of seriousness and drive to create more units in housing and to take pressure off of the market. I moved to Woodstock 9 years ago, and I'm still living in the north end of Woodstock in a home that we bought, moving from Guelph, that we bought for $189,000. I also ran in 2018 and lost and came back again, and I'm on this table. So I feel it, I see it, I have that drive, I share that passion, and I respect you for making that a goal of yours, but I will not be supporting this of all the reasons I've already stated, but I don't disagree that we have work to do on our infrastructure, on our roads, on housing. There's a lot of issues and a lot of things to do. So I respectfully agree, but disagree with this next step.
Councillor Tate.
Through your worship, I also won't be supporting it. for all the same reasons. But another thing that we're missing out of all this, we've had no public input. So if we had gone to a boundary adjustment committee and there's been discussions, it would have been out in the public and there would have been all kinds of discussion and brought the public in. I think we're missing that. We haven't had any discussion from the public. We can all say our views and what we think, but we haven't heard from the public. And I just a caution once again, as Councillor Wheaton mentioned, how fast we have grown. We've done our share. To me, we have done more than our share of growth. The province can go look somewhere else and can go blame somebody else because Woodstock has done our fair share. Part of the problem, and it goes right to the beginning, the immigration numbers are out of control. And that's why there's such a housing issue. I don't know why Woodstock has to bear and Oxford County has to bear the brunt of that. And I'll state again, the infrastructure costs are going to be out of this world. And you can watch podcast after podcast. Residential doesn't pay its way. Our roads already are way behind in the city. To do what we need to do for the stuff we just are developing now is coming back on the taxpayers we have now. I said to my son, I said, you know what, I'll let you buy the house for 500,000. Your income is good enough. But I said, the taxes are $6,600. So when you talk about affordable housing, that's one thing. The taxes here are high. And I will say again, it's because we pay our way, but we do more development that's residential. It's adding to the existing tax base. And during this election, I'm talking to all kinds of people that are new. They like the price of the houses, but they didn't like the taxes. If they had known the taxes were good, they probably wouldn't have moved here. So it's fine to say we're going to do housing, but the taxes are high and it's not going to solve the problem putting more houses. It's going to add to the taxes. So we have to remember the public needs to have a say in this. This is a big issue. And to me, the motion coming forward, no public input, and also talking to the mayor of EZT, I think we should be negotiating in good faith, and this isn't.
Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Through the chair, general comment. Originally I was, in favor of deferring to get more information, but I'm going to agree with what Councillor Tate and what Councillor Leatherborough has said, is that there's still not quite enough in this, I think, to get to where I feel comfortable even deferring this. I think that there's still a couple of additional steps and they both pretty much outlined exactly what I was hoping to see in deferring this. So I still can't support this in what we have here.
Any other comment, Councillor Schadenberg?
I was just going to say, if this motion is defeated, I certainly hope that the province of Ontario does a better job keeping tabs on some of our medium-sized communities as to how we can progress or how we can expand without saying boundary adjustments or anything like that. And the reason I state that is because, as we've discussed here, that there seems to be a real predominance over the larger communities. Doesn't matter if it's London, but it certainly could be Toronto or Kitchener-Waterloo or certainly Ottawa around the province of Ontario. In fact, I got the provincial policy statement, which of course hasn't even been approved yet for 2023 in front of my screen right now. And I won't read these 4 paragraphs, but basically what it states is, in essence, that there's going to be large and fast growing municipalities. And they say, well, 29 of Ontario's largest municipalities, as being the ones that are growing the quickest, so to speak, would be on this certain list. So if you look at this list, well, Woodstock's not on the list because we're not among the 29 largest communities in the province of Ontario. So if we don't keep tabs exactly specifically what might be done for the middle rung of municipalities with province of Ontario Ministry of Housing, doesn't matter if it's at AMO in August when it's in London or earlier than that, hopefully, to be able to find out specifically what they would want us to do. Then I think at that point in time, Easor, Tavistock, Norwich Township, or other places will realize, well, this kind of is the game plan for the future. And it's a provincial policy statement. It's being put onto us as our tier of government to be able to sort of say, well, where do we expand? How can we expand or can we not expand?
Thank you. Any other comment, questions, anything else? Councillor Wheaton?
Thank you. I'll just confer that I would like to defer this recommendation without the component of discussions with the province. I will not support the motion that's on the floor. for the reasons that have been said by my peers, and that I've already brought to the forefront, I can't support it the way it is.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, I'll simply say that, as mayor, I believe it is my job to bring forward whatever I think is in the best needs of the city of Woodstock. As a council, we get to vote on what we feel the residences and everybody else wants. So I feel I did my job to bring this forward and have a thorough discussion. I certainly hope that, Mayor Schaefer, my seatmate in council, will continue having discussions, and hopefully we would maybe have some discussion in the future. But saying that, I am still fearful of the province. And I think we have to keep that in mind, that what the province does from here is out of our hands if we're not part of those discussions. So I guess I really like where Councillor Lauder's last motion. I would have certainly supported that. And if council doesn't feel we want to be part of those discussions, I've got just a little bit of concerns, I guess, as mayor. That, but I'm only one vote, just like everybody else around this room. So with that, we'll call the vote. All those all those in favor of the new motion on the floor? Opposed? Motion defeated. Not carried. Next up, we have nothing from Human Resources, Fire Services, Public Works, or IT. Nothing from special committees, notice of motions, no new business. Usually, did we not have some? No, we already read it, sorry. Draft bylaws, Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. I'll move by Miss,
I'm sorry.
oh, sorry.
So
There is a notice
My
of
ap- okay.
motion, and I apologize that I wasn't listening when you asked that question.
Okay, yeah. Well, thought there was. Okay,
Yeah.
Councillor Wheaton.
I need to find it. Is it in the agenda? Yep, give me 2 seconds. Scroll it. Do a search with my name. Would you like it to be read out? Thank you. Whereas all Ontarians deserve and expect a safe and respectful workplace, whereas municipal governments as the democratic institutions most directly engaged with Ontarians need respectful discourse, whereas several incidents in recent years of disrespectful behavior and workplace harassment have occurred amongst members of municipal councils, whereas these incidents seriously and negatively affect the people involved in lower public perceptions of local governments, whereas municipal codes of conduct are helpful tools to set expectations of council member behavior, whereas municipal governments do not have the necessary tools to adequately enforce compliance with municipal codes of conduct. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Woodstock supports the call of the Association of Municipalities of Ontario for the Government of Ontario to introduce legislation to strengthen municipal codes of conduct and compliance with them in consultation with municipal governments. And further, be it resolved that the legislation encompass the Association of Municipality of Ontario's recommendations for updating municipal codes of conduct to account for workplace safety and harassment, creating a flexible administrative penalty regime adapted to the local economic and financial circumstances of municipalities across Ontario, increasing training of municipal integrity commissioners to enhance consistency of investigations and recommendations across the province, allowing municipalities to apply to a member of the judiciary to remove a sitting member if recommended through the report of a municipal integrity commissioner, prohibit a member so removed from sitting for election in the term of removal of the subsequent term of office. And further, that this resolution be circulated to the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honorable Stephen Clark, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the Honorable Ernie Hardeman, Oxford MPP, Charmaine Williams, Associate Member of Women's Social and Economic Opportunity, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and all Ontario municipalities.
Well done. That wasn't so bad. So again, there's no seconder or no motion needed on that. It will be on a future council time. I believe that will be in July. Okay. And with that, now we'll go to draft bylaws. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. I'll move by myself, second by Councillor Tate, that the following bylaws be given first and second reading. 9606-23, a bylaw to provide for the temporary closing of certain streets for 2023 Street Fest. 9607-23, a bylaw to provide for the purchase of certain lands owned by Execulink Telecom in the city of Woodstock. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Schadenberg, that the following bylaws be given third and final reading. 9606-23 and 9607-23.
Thank you. And tonight we'll start with adjournment. I'm sorry. No vote on that. Thank you. It's been a long day. Okay, it's been a long day. Any questions on that before I call the vote? All those in favor? Carried. And now questions and addressed by council members, and we'll start, Councillor Tate.
Well, we all know Monday's a big day by election, first time I think in Oxford, I can't remember. So that will be officially, my dad will be replaced. It's been quite a nasty one, I must say, and a lot of false information out there. So since my dad will be officially retired, I just want to set a couple records straight. I hear a lot 19-year backbencher, and I just like to comment that he was Deputy Whip, Chair of the Standing Committee on Justice, Associate Critic for National Defense, Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety, Chief Whip, and MP for 19 years. And before that, the police chief, and as I commented before, all his community involvement. And he cares deeply about his community, so anything in the otherwise I find very offensive. And just on that note, I'd like to offer my condolences to Graham Hart's family. Graham Hart was a long time Thames Valley School Board rep. He was deeply involved in the community. I'm going to read this from his obit or I'll miss everything. He championed social welfare issues to improve the lives of those less fortunate through numerous local and international organizations such as Rotary International, VON, Alzheimer's Society, and In Out of the Cold. I don't even know how many years he was a trustee. He was with Oxford and then the Thames Valley. I was lucky to know him. He was actually just away, not the last couple months, on a mission for Rotary to help those less fortunate. I think it was very sudden, his death, but I have to laugh because his family put in, the last comment was he was dedicated to supporting the Liberal Party in Oxford County. So somebody said to me, I hope he voted at the advance before he passed away, but he will be missed. He was greatly involved in the community and we need people like that. And that's it.
Thank you. We'll bounce. Councillor Wheaton.
Still making notes over here. Come on. No, it's okay. So Tuesday, I want to thank Director Locke and Public Works for organizing a tour. A number of us went out to tour Storm Fisher, which is an organics collection, sorting, and facility that turns your kitchen waste into natural gas. It's not a quick process. There's a number of steps along the way. So we first took a city bus out to Drumbo. So it turns out city buses can leave the city, where the facility, first of all, has a unique odor.
That is a very good way to put that.
Just seeing Director Locke here tonight may have brought back a few, but but a really interesting facility that takes kitchen waste and pet waste and sorts through it. And I learned a lot. I thought I was well versed on organics, just on my previous experience and a lot of research that I've done. But I did learn that there is actually some waste that comes out of organics collection. And then we traversed on to London, the facility that further processes that waste, and it comes with its own heightened odor, and turns that waste. It goes through a whole process. It becomes a liquid, and then they put it through a membrane, and then there's these fancy tubes, and it actually converts it into natural gas and feeds it back into the Enbridge line, which is just a remarkable process when you get to stand there and see that what came in turns into something pretty amazing for our community. So as we look to divert waste from our local landfill, I think this is, for me personally, one of the next big steps that we can take as a community. I think it's environmentally the right step to take. I think financially, while there is an upfront cost, the long-term savings as opposed to building and expanding landfill, I think is a tremendous opportunity for us. So thank you for organizing the trip and for heightening my sense of smell. And I look forward, if you didn't get to go, ask the director. I'm sure he would be delighted to organize another trip now that you have been appropriately prepared. Do not wear good clothes. We got on the bus and the first thing he said was, "Did you bring nose plugs?" And I was like, oh man. But a great opportunity, a great experience. I would also like to say I am tremendously looking forward to this weekend. There are so many amazing events. I'm not going to highlight all of them because I know others will, but I will be at Museum Square for a portion of the day to support our Pride community. Happy Pride.
Thank you. And the smell was so bad, I had to cut my hair. So, Councillor Leatherborough.
Oh, great. Yeah, happy Pride. I will touch on that again, but first and foremost, Monday night, I hope to see everybody there. The Smallest Step documentary, which is a Canadian documentary, is coming to Theatre Woodstock. I'm on the planning committee. Early Bird Coffee, Real Treats, Ingamo, and Dart have kind of joined forces to offer this unique documentary talking about all levels of activism, specifically trying to ignite the next generation and take the small steps, which can create big action. So anyhow, doors open at 6. There will be networking after the film and a Q&A with the director. So I'm really looking forward to this. So I hope everybody can join, or please spread the word if you see the poster. And just, I'll keep this short, but with Pride, Family Pride Day on Saturday in Museum Square, myself and my 2 oldest kids went to Ingersoll Library last Saturday for the drag story time. And without getting into it too much, the event was overwhelming with the counter protesters, like nothing I'd ever seen before, let alone having my 2 oldest boys with me. We got through the program, and it was actually half an hour after the program, after getting ice cream, that we were belligerently harassed by an individual. And so without giving all of the details, I say to my peers and people in the community that we should, always be safe and call out bad behavior. But specifically for the Pride Family Day, I want everybody to be safe, be cautious, surround yourself with people that you trust. I expect and I hope that the Woodstock Police will have a presence and ensure community safety, but it is a time to celebrate. And it was very disappointing to see that side of things, but in fact, lessons learned for my kids, unfortunately, but good lessons. And I just want everyone to be safe and happy Pride, and do come out downtown on Saturday if you can.
Thank you. We're going to bounce. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
I just want to echo the condolences to Mr. Graham Hart's family as well. I only just found out when Deb mentioned that. I interviewed Graham multiple times during my time at Heart FM. He was such a kind man, always had lots of stories to tell. And as Councillor Tate mentioned, he had a deep passion for community. So my condolences to them. Graham will be greatly missed in this community. I'm going to keep it pretty short. It's late. I will see everybody on Saturday as well. I will be wearing my big brothers, big sisters hat and there with our agency. Of course, we are very big supporters of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community. We offer a PRISM program that supports our youth in the LGBTQ+ community. So we will be there with the Rainbow Coalition and chatting about what we have to offer as well. So please come out, show some love, have some fun. And if you can get there early, I know there's a special ceremony at the beginning as well that I think would be, it's a drumming ceremony, and I think it will be a really great, unique opportunity for folks to check out. So it all gets underway at 11 a.m. And I just wanted to say congrats to a couple of youth in our community. There is College Avenue's Winston Morgan Jr. and WCI's Zach Molinaro. They both came away as champions in the Ottawa's Ontario's Best for Track and Field Championships just recently. So that's two young people from Woodstock that represented our community for across Ontario and Ottawa. And I think that's just absolutely amazing to watch those two young people come back. So congratulations to both Winston and Zach, and thanks for making Woodstock proud. Happy Pride. Everyone have a wonderful weekend. I think we might be done with rain after tomorrow. We needed the rain, I will say that, but I think we might be done.
Councillor Schadenberg.
Staying with sports, first of all, tomorrow night is the Steve Code Memorial Athletic Hall of Fame ceremony at WCI at 7 p.m. on the Friday night. I did 5 more inductees going in to their Hall of Fame for the Red Devils. Do want to mention that the Woodstock Ingersoll Echo will be available tomorrow. And if you haven't heard yet what the Woodstock Ingersoll Echo is, well, it's a brand new newspaper. It's going to be a monthly to start with. I guess it's going to be available free at the variety stores and whatnot around the community. And it's also online now if you want to see what the initial one looks like. So you can save the paper, save the trees, and just look at it and flip through it online. I do want to mention on Saturday, free bus transit for everybody on Saturday, no matter what event you're attending, including there's a Sikh temple sod turning ceremony, and the Why Not Us 3-on-3 basketball tournament is at College Avenue Secondary School for the youth. I do have one obit or memoriam I want to mention. That's Reverend Muriel Carter passed away. She was 100 years old, and she'd come to Woodstock basically to be working as a chaplain at the ORC after being a chaplain at many other places around the world, including India and whatnot. So she was a chaplain at the ORC and then also at the hospital, and a great badminton player, probably right up until she was 97 or 98 years old, was still playing badminton at the badminton club. So Reverend Muriel Carter just passed away this week at 100 years old. That's it for today. Thanks.
Thank you. And last, certainly not least, Councillor Lauder, and again, I appreciate her assistance tonight
Thank
and
you.
helping me out.
In honor of the National Indigenous People Day on Wednesday, June the 21st, the Woodstock Art Gallery will be giving away stickers featuring the painting Remembrance by Sioux artist Maxine Noel. Remembrance is currently on display in the first floor lobby as part of the gallery's permanent, so try to get in there and see them because they are beautiful. The painting memorabilia missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls stickers will be available during our regular hours from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. while supplies last, and that's coming from the art gallery. And I just want to wish Dave McKenzie a happy retirement and good health, better health than he's had. So and that's all for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And as always, there's not much to talk about when it comes around here, but I will say there is a lot of events. I believe my calendar next week has 17 different events and things I'm going to be attending to. So as always, lots going on around here in the city of Woodstock. Saturday, I'm aware of at least 5 events on Saturday itself. So I know council and us will be kind of mixing and trying to attend as much as we can. And I'm really appreciative of council, again, attending what we can. I will certainly be making a stop at Pride Day. I'm going to proudly give greetings at 1 o'clock in Museum Square. I will be saying proudly that I do believe everybody gets the right to love who you love. And with that, June 19th, get out and vote. Here's your chance. It's voting for the day. It is the by-election. It's actually a little surprising how many calls and inquiries I get about why we've got signs up. Please get out, learn about all candidates, make your decision, and get out, show your right and vote. This is our last meeting before Canada Day. Nobody has mentioned that. Canada Day, of course, celebration at Southside Park. I just thought of that. Yeah, I left it for me. Thank you very much. What's that? What's that? Go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say, because school's out as well too,
Oh,
for
yeah.
staff around City Hall, you might see me with my 4 little goslings off and on coming in to ask questions, so prepare yourself.
Um, Canada Day does start at 2:00. 5:00 is the kind of opening ceremonies, or is a band's gonna be playing throughout the evening. 8:30, the Practically Hip will be hitting there. I'm kind of excited for that. And then of course our fireworks. So get down to Southside Park, enjoy, be safe. Remember, kids are out of school. Be careful driving. As mentioned earlier in tonight's meeting, please, please, please be aware, slow down, take the time, get where you're going safely for everybody's sake. And with that, have a great night, everyone. We are adjourned. Or with that, I'm looking for adjournment. Councillor Wheaton, second by Councillor Leatherborough. All those in favor? We are adjourned. Good night, everyone.